Hey guys, alright, we are going to get started with our second lesson for Unit 11. The video that we had last week was on factoring out GCF, so this is actually the real factoring, how to factor a trinomial. You'll hear this word a lot when you're dealing with quadratics. Remember, quadratic means the highest exponent is a 2. So as you can see, my example down here is we're going to be factoring trinomials today that are just x squared plus bx. B will end up being a number, and then plus c. C will also be a number, and c will be our constant since it does not have a variable with it. Okay, so when I teach this in class, I always give this sheet of paper out. And what this does is this is going to organize our trinomial based on the signs that are in front of your constant and in front of your middle term. So what I would like for you to do today is to get out a sheet of paper, pause the video, and sketch this graphic organizer on your paper. So just put a line down the middle, up and down, a line across the middle, and then put plus plus, minus plus, minus minus, and plus minus. And then we are going to work one of each kind of these. And so as we're working them, I will tell you which box you should be writing this problem in. So how I teach factoring is I use a method called little smile, big smile. And you will see me work through those using little smile, big smile when we start this one. So let's go ahead, and our first one we're going to do says x squared plus 10x plus 24. So if you notice, our trinomial has two plus signs. So this is going to go in the left upper box of the graphic organizer that hopefully you just made, because this is a plus plus. So write the problem in that upper left box. Okay, and so this is how we factor. So the point of factoring is you are trying to undo what we did in Unit 10. Unit 10, we learned how to distribute numbers into a binomial, binomial times binomial. We learned all that. So this is like the backwards version of Unit 10. We are fixing to take this trinomial and we're going to turn it back into two binomials. Okay, so this is how we get started. You're going to take your very first term. So our first term is x squared. And we have to figure out, how can I split x squared? Meaning, what times what gets me x squared? And there's only one answer. The only thing times itself that gets you x squared is x. So I split x squared with an x. So I'll put an x in the first parentheses and an x in the second parentheses. Okay, now we're going to look at our last number. So our last number is 24. So we have to think, how can I split 24? What times what gets me 24? And there's actually a lot of answers to this one. There was only one answer to x squared, which was x and x. But there's several answers to 24. So for instance, 1 times 24, that gets you 24. 2 times 12. Okay. Let's see, 3 times 8. And 4 times 6. 5 doesn't go into 24. 6, we already used 6, and then we've got all the other numbers up. So as you can see, you have several different options for something times something that gets me 24. So how in the world are we going to pick which one is supposed to be used? So that is where the middle number comes in. So what we're trying to do is I need to pick one of these pairs that is going to add to get me 10. I'm going to re-go over that. I need to pick one of these pairs that is going to add to get me the number 10. So let's go through here. 1 plus 24, that's 25. 2 plus 12, that's 14. 3 plus 8, 11. 4 and 6. Okay, that makes 10. that means that's your answer. So we'll put one of those numbers here and one of those numbers here. Okay? And now the last step is I need to figure out what symbol goes in my binomials. So this is something that after I say this, you may need to pause the video and write it down, just as a reference or a clue for when you do the assignment on this one. So how you figure out the sign. If the second sign is positive, these two signs will be the same. So I'm going to repeat that. If the second sign is positive, these two signs will be the same. So write that down. Then you take the sign of the one in the front. So since the one in the front is a positive, that means both of these will be a positive. So let me repeat that one more time. If the second sign is positive, these two signs will be the same thing. So whatever you put in the first one, you got to put in the second one. And to figure out what sign that is, you look to the one in the front. So a positive was in the front, so positive, positive. All right, so I'm going to show you a quick method of how you can double check yourself to make sure that this is in fact your correct answer. And it's to do what we just did in Unit 10, which is to multiply it or distribute it out. So this is what it would look like. If I did x times x, I would get x squared. X times 6, I would get 6x. 4 times x would get me 4x. And 4 times 6 would get me 24. These two terms are like terms, so x squared plus 10x plus 24. And if you'll look, it matches the problem from the original number 1. So that's how you know for sure that you did it correct. All right, let's try another one. So here's number 2. If you'll notice, number 2 has a minus and then a plus. So on your graphic organizer, that goes in the top right box. So here we go. So we know we're going to turn it into two binomials. So we're going to start with x squared. So I need to figure out how do I split x squared. So what times what is x squared? And there's only one answer. X times x. Okay, so let's move to the number 15. So 15, I need to figure out how can I split 15? What times what is 15? So I've got 1 times 15. That gets me 15. 2 times, there's nothing 2 times that would get me 15. 3 does go into 15. 3 times 5. 4 doesn't go. And we already picked 5. So those are the only terms that will multiply to get me 15. So now I got to figure out, okay, well, which one do I pick? So that's where the middle one comes in. I need to figure out what two numbers multiply to get 15, which is over here, but will add to get me 8. Add to get me 8. Notice I'm looking at this sign. Which ones will add to get me 8? All right, add to get me 8. So 1 plus 15, that's 16, so that's not it. 3 plus 5. There you go. 3 plus 5 is 8. So that's how you know your answer. So 3 goes in one of them. 5 goes into the second one. All right, and now to figure out our sign. So what we wrote down earlier, very similar, but you may want to pause the video and write this one down again. If your second sign is positive, these two signs will be the same. To figure out what that sign is, you look to the front sign. So this time, my front sign was a minus. So that means both of these will be a minus. So I'll repeat it. If your second sign is positive, these two signs will be the same. You look to the front to see what that sign is, and you use that. All right, so now I'm going to describe what little smile, big smile means. Little smile means if I multiply these two right here, -3 and x, that gets me -3x. And then if I do this one, like a big smile, this one was a little smile, this one was a big smile. X times -5 is -5x. And then if you combine both of those, -3x and -5x, you get -8x, which is what you want. So that's why I use little smile, big smile. All right, number 3, if you'll notice, is a plus and a minus. So it goes on the bottom right. So here we go. We know we're going to have 2 parentheses. So we're going to start here. What splits to get me x squared? X and x. All right, and I need numbers that will multiply to get me 20. So how can I split 20? 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 3 doesn't go into 20, 4 times 5, and that's it. All right, so this one's got a different saying that you might need to pause the video and write down. So here it goes. If your second sign is negative, notice this time my second sign is negative. If the second sign is negative, these two signs will be different. They will be different. Okay? So that means one of these is going to have to be a plus, and one of them is going to have to be a minus. Okay? So my goal is I needed to pick what number multiplies to get me 20. So I've got these options over here, but subtracts to get me, what number's right here? A 1. Okay. Multiplies to get me 20. So all these over here multiply to get me 20, but I have to subtract to get a 1. So let's see. 20 minus 1 is 19, so that's not it. 10 minus 2 is 8. That's not it. 5 minus 4. All right. So 5 minus 4 is 1. So notice I need to get a positive 1. So let's double check this real quick. Let's see if I put a 4 here and a 5 here. Let's do little smile, big smile, see what happens. Little smile gets me a 4x. Big smile, if I multiply those together, gets me negative 5x. Okay, well, if I combine those together, 4x minus 5x, that equals negative 1x, right? But look what your middle term was. Was your middle term a negative 1? No, it was a positive 1. All right, so remember last week when I told you you're going to have a really good eraser? This is what I mean by this. Erasers will be your friend. So earlier I had the 4 here and the 5 here. Let's switch that up. Let's put the 5 here and the 4 here. Now let's do little smile, big smile. Little smile is 5x. Big smile is negative 4x. And if I combine those, 5x minus 4x, that gets me 1x. All right, so there we go. That means I was correct. All right, last one. Last one is a minus minus, so it goes on the bottom left. And here we go. 2 parentheses. How do you split x squared? That would be x and x. All right, I got to figure out how do I split 20. So we just did this one. So 1 times 20 is 20. 2 times 10, 4 times 5. So all those get me 20. Okay, but this time I need something that multiplies to get me 20 but subtracts to get me 8. Notice subtracts to get me 8. So 20 minus 1 is 19. That's not it. 10 minus 2. 10 minus 2, that gets me 8. So 2 here, 10 here. And so here's the thing that we wrote down earlier, and you may need to pause it again. If your second sign is negative, these signs will be different. They will be different. So that means one of them is a positive, one of them is a negative. Okay? So we need to double check though. We need to make sure that we do little smile, big smile to get negative 8. That's the goal. I need to get negative 8. So here we go. Little smile, 2 times x is 2x. Big smile, x times negative 10 is negative 10x. If I combine those together, 2x minus 10x gets me a negative 8x. Boom, which is exactly what we needed. We needed a negative 8x. Okay, so here's my advice for this lesson. Make sure you are writing each one of these problems down and working them out, checking using little smile, big smile. Do not just guess on these. You do need a good eraser, so don't be using a pen. Always check using little smile, big smile. When you do little smile, you multiply those. Big smile, you multiply these, and then you combine them together. So 2x minus 10x. That's how I got negative 8x. When you do little smile, big smile, it has to get you the number in the middle. So make sure you are working through each one of these, and please let me know if you have any questions or you need any help.